Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday and welcome to the Light Christian Spiritualist Church, Weymouth. Really, really lovely to have you along with us this evening to join us for our weekly divine service that we hold every Sunday during lockdown, bringing a little slice of your spiritualist church to you right to the comfort of your own homes. It's really lovely to have you with us. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome a really, really good friend of the church and a working medium in and around the Dorset area, to welcome Mr. Jamie Williamson. How are you doing, Jamie?
Hello, thank you, Ashley. Nice to be here. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, as they say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming and wanting to take our Sunday service. It's an absolute joy to have you with us. And normally we would see you in the comments, interacting, engaging with the spiritual community, in and around, joining in on lots of live streams and Q&A. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us this evening. Thank you. I know we're going to be here for a good night. Thank you. Hello to everybody that's here this evening, to Linda Marie. Hello, lovely Phil, and all of the Wimbledon crew. I hope it all went well for you this morning on your first physical service in your live stream that was on Spiritual Productions at the same time. Really good to have you with us. I hope it all went well. We're sending my thoughts to you. Hello to Phil. Lovely to have you with us. Hi, Phil and Susan and Nicola and Dawn. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody who's joined us. And also to everyone that comes and joins us on the replay. We mustn't forget the people on the replay that are busy or doing other things on Sunday evening, but they come back and they watch the replay to listen to the gems of spiritual wisdom to allow them to have something to think about over the week. Okay, everybody, we are going to start our service. Oh, hello, Caroline, you're new. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming and finding us in our small corner of Facebook. Do hope you enjoy this evening. Thank you. We're going to start our service this evening the way that we normally do, which is by lighting a candle so that we can all light one together at the same time. So if you want to go and grab your candles, ladies and gents, we'll be back in about 30 seconds. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've got your candle by now. So the reason why we do this, just to explain why we do this, if this is the first time you've come here and the first time you've taken part in our service, is because there's a moment when we open a spiritualist church service where everyone that's sat in the congregation is invited by the chairperson or the medium to drop into a really quiet, sacred space, kind of that inner temple of your own body, wherever you feel your soul resides, wherever you feel spirit, wherever you go when you meditate. And the reason why we light a candle is to give ourselves something to focus on and give ourselves a visible symbol of that togetherness and created that sacred space in your own home. So even if we can't go to church to be together, we are together in spirit. And I like the imagery of creating little candles of lights all over the place, everyone that's watching these church services. So I'd invite you now to do that, to light your candle. And as you do that with intention, to invite your own loved ones from the spirit world in, your guides and your helpers, that divine source, that divine energy, however you identify with that creative spark of the infinite. Thank you. Oh, lovely. Beautiful. Okay. And now we've dropped into that space, friends, I'd like to invite Jamie to open our service with an opening prayer.
Okay. Would you like to join me in prayer, folks? Spirit divine, creator of the universe, source of the energy that flows through all of us, through all nature's creation, and through all those that are here with us tonight, not only in this world, but in the next. Inspire us, teach us, and help us to understand the reality of our existence and the challenges that we face. Help us to overcome them. We place this service in your hands, knowing full well that the blessings will flow and we will learn new and important lessons. Amen.
Amen. Lovely. Thank you, Jamie. And now we choose this time to say the Lord's Prayer together, friends, if you wish to. And so as we close our eyes, I'd invite you to say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And leave us not when in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. Thank you, everybody. And now we're in that prayerful space, a space for healing and coming together. We're now going to use this time to send out absent healing to all of those people that we know and love who need some upliftment at this time. And also for all of those people who we do not know, and those people who do not know who to ask for help. We'll send them some healing and upliftment at this time. And also don't forget to include yourselves as light workers and spiritual people and people working in the community, doing visible tasks, but also weaving together those spiritual thoughts. Please also include yourselves in that healing to keep you uplifted. And so as we come together in this prayerful space, we'll say the healing prayer, and then I'll give some time over to some music for you to send your own thoughts out in meditation. And so, friends, I'd invite you to drop into that place that you go to when you wish to think of people you know and love and send them upliftment and healing in your own time. And so we ask, may we all desire to be healed. May what is wounded in our lives be restored to good health. May we be receptive to the ways in which healing needs to happen. May we take good care of ourselves. May we extend compassion to all that hurts within our bodies and our souls. May we be patient with the time that it takes to heal. May we be aware of the wonders of our body and its ability to return us all to good health. May we be open to receive from those who extend kindness to us, care and compassion. May we rest peacefully under the sheltering wings of divine love and trust in this gracious presence. May we find small moments of beauty and joy to sustain us. And may we keep hope and faith and trust always alive in our hearts. And now some time for you to sit in healing meditation. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all of your healing thoughts. So this is the part of the service that we hand over to our speaker to continue on the theme and to hear the reading that you've picked for us. So Jamie, it's over to you for your reading and address.
Okay, for my reading, I don't know if anyone is there. I'm going to read from a book entitled Spiritual Unfoldment, and it's by White Eagle, who Grace Cook was channeling White Eagle for many years, and it's quite famous. It's quite an interesting one. This one is entitled, which is hopefully will carry through into my address, is The Path. It's called The Path. So I read it. It's a bit long, but it's worth it. It talks generally about the struggle that we have following a spiritual path. And it's quite insightful, I think, and certainly very apt for the times that we live in. To work upon the soul does not always demand the sitting apart of long periods in meditation. But having decided upon your particular path, follow it steadfastly. Do not follow squirrel tracks. Do not run hither and thither that someone else has found a better path than yours, and you will try it, his or hers. As children, when plucking flowers, flit from patch to patch in case some other child has found better flowers than they, so do children of earth rush hither and thither after the truths of the Spirit. This is not the way, for a time will come when your innermost voice will speak to you, saying, "This is my path. Here I shall find peace. I will pursue this path, come what may." Having made your decision, you must abide by it. You will not always find this easy. But if you persist and are patient, and above all, never lose faith, your path will lead you unerringly to your goal. In following the spiritual path, you will have to learn to discriminate between promptings of the earthly mind and the wisdom of the higher God mind, to distinguish the real from that which is unreal and transient. The worldly mind dwells within us all and causes us to doubt the reality of spiritual truth. Again and again, as you progress in spiritual unfoldment, you will surely find that doubt will challenge you. Doubt poses as common sense, as a scrupulous honesty, which prefers plain truth to delusion. This is doubting worldly mind will try to argue with you, suggesting that everything which your spiritual vision reveals cannot be proved and is only a figment of your imagination. The mind of the body has its place and can be a sound enough guide within its limitations, once it has learnt to defer to the God mind. Truth, which the worldly mind would term pure nonsense, may be accepted and treasured by the spiritual mind. To a higher sense of the soul, your intellect and intelligence, it may appear a rare gem of truth. So we must learn discrimination, having rendered unto Caesar the worldly things which truly belong to Caesar. Then seek to find the pearl of truth. A wise teacher has said that there are two kinds of people in this world, those who know and those who do not know. There are those who are aware of God's presence everywhere, who know of the guidance and inspiration, the higher worlds of wisdom and beauty. And there are those who, knowing nothing of these beauties, live as if imprisoned in a dark room. Those of you who know, or at least beginning to know in this way, have earned the spiritual awareness through patient effort, experience, and suffering. Yet you must still be watchful and work to retain that knowledge. For while there is an urge which causes the light of spirit to grow, there is also the mind of earth, which will urge you to doubt, condemn, and even destroy the growing light in your heart. You have to struggle hard and long until the light within becomes so powerful and strong that doubts can never assail it again. The doubts and questioning which assail you are like the voice of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, which tempted Adam and Eve to eat the fruits of earthliness and ignore their God. Are we not all striving to listen in to the voice of spirit, even while we are continually assailed by the clamour of the outer world? Do not put off by people who tell you it is not, there's no such thing as the spirit world, no such possibility as healing of the sick by spiritual means. Those who speak this way live in darkness and do not know. Send such people the light of love and realize that later on they will know. Do not force your opinions on them, because arguments seldom lead anywhere or convince anyone. The people mean well, but on the path you have chosen, you must remain loyal to the voice of spirit, loyal to those helping you in your development and growth. You are developing a sixth sense, the intuition. The syntax is quite strange, I think, in that. Not easy to follow. So for me, that is really about listening to the voice within and the quiet, and how that is often difficult in the world that we live in. I think when we are born into this world, we are clearly a blank sheet. And as we grow up, we learn certain things about the world around us, and we accept these things as children do. We're very much a product of the world we live in, the material world we live in, and that influences our decisions and our development. We learn to mistrust the things that cannot be proven by science or are material in the true sense of the word. So I liken life really to a journey within an imperfect world. So as we progress through this life to our goal, and the goal is to achieve oneness with spirit, the goal is to achieve peace of mind and the truth of the world that we live in. One of the first steps, I think, is that if you accept that there is life after death, and clearly within spiritualism, there's a lot of emphasis placed on the evidence that we can give that shows there is life after death. There is no proof. We won't know the answer to that until we actually pass ourselves. But there's clearly a lot of evidence. The problem that we have is that science and the material world can only deal with what is tangible, what is objective. And very much the spiritual experience is subjective. If you accept that life continues after death, then this is very much the first step in your progression. If you cease to doubt that, you can't move forward. You have to accept that. Otherwise, the rest, you have to take it on faith, some would say. This, once you accept that, becomes what I term a paradigm shift. In other words, your world changes, your view of the world changes. What you accept as reality and what you accept as transient or illusion switches completely round. We're brought up, unless you're brought up in a religious family where spiritual beliefs are taught, most of us are taught that what is important is what we can do in this life in the concrete sense of the word. When you accept life after death, that turns the whole thing around, and then is the realization that in fact this world is the illusion. I often likened it to, if you've ever seen the Matrix trilogy, it's very similar. Once you take the red pill, there's no turning back. You have, in many ways, turned your world upside down. The realities change. So we have to, throughout our development, deal with the rational mind, which, as this text suggests, constantly tries to undermine our view of the spiritual mind. It's the natural process. I like it when people have said that the human mind, the material mind, is a poor master, but a good servant. And I think that is very much the way you should view it. The difficulty, of course, is having to make that shift and make it last. So we have to learn to discriminate between what is material and what is not material. So I sort of have certain things that really are pointers to the way forward. And further on, I'll talk about some of the techniques that you can use to develop a better understanding of who we are and where we are going in this world. So in many respects, we need to know what stands in our way, what the obstacles are in order to overcome them. And I think that's one of the first principles that you need to think about. We need to know what is important and what is not important in our spiritual lives and our material lives. We need to know where we're going and how we're going to get there. Like all journeys, unless you have got a destination when you start, you're not going to get there. So we need a clear idea of what our end goal is. And I think that's peace and understanding mainly. The other thing is we need to have the tools in order to do the job. In other words, to move forward. I always think that philosophy is a very useful thing. It acts as guidance, it gives us direction, and very much it gives us the parameters of our new world and the things that need to be considered. It's a route map, and it's the beauty of philosophy is it's also a method of inquiry. We can use it to ask questions about our world and ourselves. So the goal in many respects is self-discovery. We need to discover who we are and what makes us tick, literally. My background is in nursing. My first years in my nursing career were in psychiatry. So the tools of psychiatry are very useful in this sense. I'm talking the psychoanalytical tools. We're talking theories of Freud and of Jung, Carl Jung being the most appropriate when it comes to spiritual matters. But yeah, so there are things. There's one particular tool that is used quite a lot and I think is quite useful, and that's what we call reflection on action. If we assume that when we move through life, we come across obstacles, and we also make an assumption that these are the things that teach us the lessons of life. And again, if you read, particularly Silver Birch is one that talks about this quite a lot, is that he says that unless we experience negative things, we cannot appreciate the positive things. We live very much in a duality. And so by overcoming problems, we learn about ourselves, I think is one of the important things. And the tool of reflecting on action is simply that. You consider how you have moved forward, how you've behaved, and how you can do things. So in summary, each obstacle that we come across is an opportunity to learn about ourselves and to better understand ourselves and what our goals are in life. So the actual techniques are fairly easy. It's sitting in the silence, which is, you have to acknowledge the help of your guides, who are very good at prompting us to think about things as they help us through various things. But I think the technique is really, there are key points. One is you need to be honest with yourself. If you're faced with a difficult situation, we tend to react emotionally. And I think it's important to identify what the underlying cause of that emotional response is. So we need to be honest with ourselves is the first thing. You need to look at your response and you need to acknowledge when it's unhelpful response and so on. You need to trust yourself. You need to learn to trust your guides and helpers, but you also need to have trust in yourself. It's important not to be judgmental of yourself. You need to learn to value yourself and to look at things positively rather than negatively. We're all very good at self-criticism and beating ourselves up, literally. I think we have to learn to accept that we are flawed. And if we weren't flawed, we wouldn't be here. We would be somewhere else. We are here to learn, and we learn by the mistakes we make, unfortunately. So you need to learn to examine, particularly things that make us angry, things that make us frightened or fear, and we need to look at those things and understand why we react. So a lot of it is about asking ourselves, what have we learned from the situation? How can we do better next time? And that's basically all the reflective process is reviewing an incident or your day and thinking, yes, today was a good day. I did this, I did that, and complimenting yourself and the things. And then you can say, but this didn't go quite according to a plan. How could I, the next time I'm faced with this problem, deal with it in a different way, a more constructive way? So we have to learn basically self-constructive criticism. A lot of people liken this to soul work. You're actually looking at your purpose in life and your path. And it's, again, really about listening to the still voice within. The time, again, as is said by White Eagle, we don't need to spend a lot of time in doing this. You don't need to sit in the silence for hours and meditate, whatever, and expect a ha-ha moment. It is done bit by bit. Gradually, we learn. And you can meditate walking out in countryside. You can meditate when you're doing the washing up, doing the ironing, anything. You can turn your mind to other things, which we tend to do naturally anyway. It's not an easy path. There are many obstacles, the biggest being ourselves, I think. We are very good at criticizing ourselves and not moving forward. What we're dealing with really is the challenges of a material world where everything is measured by its cost and by its value. The spiritual values are not that well represented in our society. The goal, I think we can talk about being an instrument of change. And I'll sort of finish at that point because it's a very big subject, and literally understanding self. I mean, you talk about people go for psychoanalysis and take 4 or 5 years in order to do it. So it's something we need to do. But I think one of the things we can use, I particularly like the prayer of St. Francis. I don't know if people have come across that, but it's been turned into a hymn. Yes. With some changes, but which is a very nice hymn. Mm-hmm. So I'd just like to finish by reading that hymn out. Well, not the hymn, sorry, the prayer. St. Francis, I don't know if everybody knows about St. Francis of Assisi, but he was basically the founder of the Franciscan monks, the order of Franciscan monks, and lived basically in the 12th and 13th century. And he basically how can I put it? He gave up material things in order to follow a spiritual path. So it's quite apt. And this is a prayer that is commonly associated with him. There's no proof he wrote it, but it's always associated with him. So I'll just read it because it's a nice one. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is offense, let me bring pardon. Where there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Master, let me not seek as much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to love as to be loved. For it is in giving that one receives. It is in self-forgetting that one finds. It is in pardoning that one is pardoned. It is in dying that one is raised to eternal life. I think that for me says so much about what we try to achieve. If someone says, what is it like to be spiritual? I think that is an excellent description. It isn't about religion. It isn't about dogma. It's about the way we behave in life and how we deal with others and how others see us. So I'd like to finish that, I think, at that point.
Beautiful.
If there are any questions, I'm happy to take questions.
Oh, that was lovely. Thank you so much, Jamie. And you know, it's really interesting how you brought through elements of spirituality, spiritual philosophy, but also, you know, and many guides have talked about the fact that spirit draw on the knowledge that you have from your material life, the material pathway that you've walked, and actually you're able to weave in the concepts of Jung and Freud and psychoanalysis. And you're right, being a spiritual person actually is doing the hard yards, isn't it? It's doing the hard work to understand you and what makes you tick and what your trigger points are. And
I always say we're a work in progress.
Absolutely, a work of art in progress. How beautiful. Thank you so much for your words.
Thank you very much for listening, everybody.
Thank you. And you know what? Lots and lots of people love Make Me a Channel of Your Peace. And it is definitely one of the most favourite hymns we sing on a Sunday at the church. Lots of people loving that. Heather loves that. Lorraine, Valerie. Oh, hello, Cynthia. Cynthia's on as well as Phil. Angie Page has joined us recently. Hello, Angie. You're not late. You're perfectly on time. Thank you, Angie, for joining us. And June loves that one as well. Thank you, everybody. So we're at the point. Oh, Mary. Okay. Goodness. What a lovely memory. Thank you for sharing that. Mary said that was a beautiful hymn, and she sung it at her mother's funeral. So thank you. Goodness. Messages within messages, Mary. Messages within messages. I wonder whether you felt the presence of your mum around you as you were listening to those words. I think we all had our own little moment, didn't we, when you were saying that?
Exactly.
Super, thank you. So we're at the point of the evening where if anyone has any questions or comments or things they want to talk to Jamie about, or questions in general, then please do put them to us. And we'll do our very best to answer them or get some way close for you. Please do interact. Margaret loves that hymn as well. Absolutely beautiful. I was interested in your thoughts on kind of spiritual discernment. And I think you kind of mentioned that a couple of times for different reasons. So spiritual discernment in as much as understanding where our energy is and understanding what is kind of being in the present moment. And the only way that you can fully be present is to really work on meditation and lots of other practices that bring you to the now. And you're interested. You've spoke music to my ears. You talked about being in nature because you can only be in the present moment when you're in nature.
Yeah, that's right. Especially walking.
Absolutely. What's your favorite way of kind of getting into the now and stepping beyond the past and not worrying about the future, but being in the now?
I suppose walking in mountains is one of my favorite pastimes, or walking full stop. The only problem with mountains, of course, is you have to keep your eyes on the floor. Otherwise you'll trip over things. But yeah, that is what. But of course, particularly during lockdown, I've been able to meditate every day, which is a luxury, obviously. But then I'm retired, so that's one of the benefits of being retired, is you can devote that time. And I think it's meditation for me. It's dependent on where you want to be with these things. If mine is mainly because I want to work with spirit and I want to explore, and they certainly have over the last three months or so, giving me lots to think about. And as you say, it's a combination of what they bring and what I have already in my material mind, as it were. So there are times in the past when I didn't meditate as much because I was busy working and whatever. So I think it's, when it's the right time to devote that time. And I think spirit jump in everywhere. I mean, frequently, it always unnerves me sometimes when you get into the shower and spirit are often there. I particularly see a lot of blue lights first thing in the morning, for some strange reason, and I know that spirit are around, and I often get spirit give me some nice thoughts when I'm in the shower, some inspired thinking. So yeah, I think it's about the other thing. We have to be grounded. We have to know. I mean, I liken it to a tree. You have the tree has its roots in the ground, and yet its foliage is above. So it's a very symbolic in the sense of that is how I view it. And certainly walking and doing some chore of some sort is a time to allow spirit to come close, and they do frequently.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answers your question.
And do you know what, these things have a way of just the mystery of the mystery means that it's always the perfect answer at the perfect time. Thank you. But yeah, absolutely, being in nature. I think so many people have had the opportunity to be in nature more during lockdown and have that time, as you say, that time to.
I think there's a shift in our thinking when it comes particularly in nature. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Linda Marie has said she loves meditation. It's become very important and special. Yes, Linda, you are a very dedicated meditator within the group and really working at it. And it is a practice. We call these spiritual practices because they require a certain amount of physical and mental discipline in order to be able to do that, to create that appointment and to focus on doing it, because we can always find a reason why we don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's spiritual practice for a reason. Lovely Sue is on. Hello, lovely Sue. Sue's asked a question to say, do your spirit guides introduce a seed thought which you to contemplate? Very much your lovely image you've given us on a Sunday evening of meditation in the shower, Jamie.
Yeah, well, it's not actually meditating, but spirit will come when they get the opportunity. Certainly, yes. Particularly if, like for this as an example, if I'm thinking about producing a piece of work, then I will ask spirit, can you give me an inspiration? And it may just be one word, literally one word. I've had one word. One was, and I had to go and look it up, was mutuality. So I know it wasn't me, because mutuality was a theme that they worked with me on, and that is quite a fascinating subject. But that's another day, as they say. But yes, so they will just give me a word sometimes, and then I will spend the week literally exploring that concept, which I think is wonderful that they're able to do that. And yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and it's my education. I always think it's my education. They're teaching me to think about these things.
Absolutely.
So yes, they do send a thought.
That's a great way to put it, actually. It's your education as you get inspired to go looking, and then you go searching, whether you get guided to go and look in books or to do some research or to meditate on it. It's our own education we're learning as a spirit world are kind of directing us. Great question, Sue. And I know that you're a big advocate of that, using that kind of seed knowledge. I've seen you do that beautifully on many occasions in your own spiritual work. And I love that kind of spiritual practice in circle where you get given a word and then you use your own inspiration and let spirit come and talk about that word. Thank you for that really great question. Okay. If anyone else has some questions, that would be really lovely. More than happy to take questions. If anyone's got any questions they want to ask, myself or Jamie. While we're kind of waiting for those questions to come in, Jamie, I'm really interested in when it was within your own spiritual pathway, you talk about your material life and your dedication to your nursing practice and working in health and especially mental health. When did you realize that there was almost the wheel was turning and that spirit were coming into your life in an ever stronger way, or has spirit always been with you?
Well, from the age of 18, I literally, this is a long story, as they say. I was working in commerce when I was 17, 18, and I was quite disillusioned. And I thought there must be more to life than this, than working for somebody else to make money for somebody else. This doesn't seem, so the drive was there from quite an early age to do something. And somebody purely by chance said, well, have you seen this advert? Must have been having a conversation with somebody. I remember the gentleman really well. And he said, have you seen this? They're advertising for nurses in psychiatry, which was a local mental hospital, as they were called in those days, because we're talking now the 60s. And I said, really? What's that all about? And I could have had no idea. And I said, well, they don't have male nurses. I never even thought there's such a thing as a male nurse. And I went along, and that was it. I started my career, and I spent 8 years working in psychiatry, doing all sorts, particularly what we call a co-therapist. That was very much, and the consultant I worked with was very Freudian in his output, in his approach. So yeah, I learned a lot about Freud and Jung after that. But that was the start, and I was introduced to spiritualism by my wife, whose family was spiritualists. And again, that was something where I'd never heard of spiritualism. And I thought, well, that's interesting, I'll go along. And that was it. I was hooked, as you might say. And so then throughout my career, I was always aware of the presence of spirit, particularly when it came to healing, because really, certainly nursing is split in two parts. There's the science, which personally has been quite difficult for me to offload since I retired, because there's a strong scientific element to that. But there's also the caring side, which is, if you like, the spiritual side. That's where the mediumship comes in. So I was always aware of that, and it followed. Later in my career, I became quite dissatisfied, and I went through a stressful period, and that's when I started to think seriously about the spiritual side of my life, because I was coming up to retirement. And as a lot of people do when you come up to retirement, you start thinking about where you want to be and what you want to do next. And I joined a development circle, and I sat in that development circle. I think it was about 6 or 7 years, quite happy, wonderful it was, going every week and just sitting there in the silence with spirit, wonderful. And then somebody said, do you want to take this any further? And I thought, well, yes, where? And that's when somebody suggested that I perhaps develop to be a medium. So it was always there from about the age of 18, I suppose.
Amazing. Lovely. What an interesting story. Do you know, all the time that I've known you, and I didn't know that, and I just suddenly thought, were you born with this knowledge, or kind of did you remember it at a certain point in your life? So thank you for sharing that.
You don't know, do you?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Caroline's really enjoying the service. I'm so pleased you're enjoying it, Caroline. And welcome once again. Thank you. Caroline asked a great question that we've just about got time for, which is, who inspires you, Jamie? I know it's a really big question.
We're talking living or dead?
You can run with it. However you want to answer this question, you can run with it.
I must admit, the person I find the most inspiring is Silver Birch. And he really does, he resonates, his thoughts and the way of expressing things resonates with me, and what he says makes a lot of sense. And I love the way he says, if you don't accept, the words that tells us to challenge everything that even he says. And if it doesn't, you don't accept it. If it doesn't make sense, then that's fine. Don't accept it, because we're all different. We all have a different understanding. And so I think there are pearls of wisdom in the Silver Birch. So yes, a person, I admire him. The other one I think I admire would be Jesus Christ. If you strip away the Orthodox Church of England doctrine and you look at the life of Jesus, then I think that's inspiring. He demonstrates so much that other prophets do not, I'm afraid. They're flawed, whereas Jesus isn't quite as flawed as the rest. Super. So yeah, that's the sources of inspiration. Yeah.
Well, they're two pretty amazing inspirers that you've got in your corner. So yeah, fantastic, great question. Thank you so much, Caroline, for a really great question. That was really lovely. And thank you for everybody that's been here this evening. It's been so wonderful to see so many people online and coming back week after week to take part in our Spiritual Sunday service, just to keep the lights on for the spirit world until we can be back together in our own lovely church and back in our lovely churches, wherever you are in the country, wherever you are in the world watching this evening. Thank you for coming and joining and keeping the lights on for Spirit. Okay, so we are going to thank Jamie ever so much for just a really thought-provoking, really wonderful evening of spiritual philosophy. Thank you so much, Jamie, for your...
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. It's been really beautiful. Lots of people enjoyed. Phil's loved it. Phil Shaw. Yeah, interesting to learn about your own personal philosophy. Do you know what? We really have the time to learn about your background and your personal philosophy and how that shapes and works with your spirit inspirers and what you choose. So yeah, really great point there, Phil. We're getting to know our mediums. We're getting a little peek inside their lives because we're broadcasting and lots of people are broadcasting. It definitely feels a lot more personal when you broadcast over the internet in this way. It doesn't feel as if there's kind of the top table at the front of the church or the spiritual center and then you've got the rows of seats. It does feel a lot more personal that we're getting to know a lot more about you and your heart and soul. Great observation.
No barriers.
No barriers, absolutely. And
No
you get
barriers.
to listen to it again and again, which sometimes you can't. You know, you can't remember when you're driving home after a church service and you think, oh, what did they say about Silver Birch?
Yeah, you can read it, you can go through it again, yeah.
Absolutely, you can go over it again and again and again on the internet in perpetuity. But thank you everyone for joining us. Our medium for next week, just to run through a couple of notices, our medium for next week is Minister Val Williams. She's a lovely speaker, a fantastic ambassador for Spirit, works here and abroad, all over the world, and a really lovely spiritual worker, very, very big hearted. So please do join myself and Val Williams next Sunday from 6:15 until 7 o'clock here on the church Facebook page. For those people who are new here, please do go and like the church Facebook page because there's regular updates going on there so you can be in touch with what's happening and never miss out on anything that's happening at the church. And just an announcement for Friday over on my page, Ashley Oliver, Spiritual Worker. Val is coming to do a 1-hour special with us from 6 till 7, which is going to be a mediumship masterclass. So one not to be missed. If anyone has been in any of Val's workshops or seen her at Spirit Quest or working at the Arthur Findlay College or any of the other workshops she runs all over the world, please do not miss that. 6 till 7 over on my page. Val will be doing a special for us on Friday the 17th. Thank you for everyone that's joined us. We're going to hand over now to Jamie, who's going to close our service down in a time-honoured way with our closing prayer.
Okay, would like to join me, folks. Heavenly Father, Spirit Divine, guides, helpers, friends, family, inspirers, teachers, and healers, we thank you all for your input in our lives, for your guidance, and for the love that flows through you. We thank you for this service and the opportunity to gather together and to share our knowledge and our understanding. We thank Spirit for allowing us to be here. We thank all our loved ones for their continued support. And we thank all those that came to join us in this world and in the next. Heavenly Father, please send love and light with all those present tonight and on catch-up, so that their lives will be enriched with the knowledge that they are not alone, that Spirit and their companions stay with them, guide them, and help them. Send healing to all those in need, physical, mental, emotional. Send them healing. Make them strong and fit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so as we close the service this evening, sending the light from us to you, wherever you are, we're going to blow our candles out now. So thank you everyone who's come and joined us this evening, and we will see you next Sunday, 6:15 till 7 o'clock here on this church Facebook page. Go well, friends. Look after yourselves. Stay well, stay positive, and keep shining your light for the spirit world. You're all doing an amazing job, and definitely raising the vibration of this planet with all of your efforts. So thank you so much for all the work you do. Many thanks, friends. Have a good week. Take care. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.